Close your eyes and picture a spider. Small, patient, capable of spinning something extraordinary from almost nothing at all. Now picture a teenager in Queens, New York, pulling on a homemade costume stitched together from discount fabric and sheer desperation. No armor, no billions of dollars in tech support. Just a boy who decided one terrible night that he would use what he had been given to protect the people he loved. That boy became Spider-Man, and the suits he wore across 60 years of comic books, animated series, blockbuster films, and beloved video games became something more than costumes. They became mirrors. Each one reflected a different version of the hero inside them. Some suits were born from tragedy, some from technology, some from darkness, and some from a simple, stubborn refusal to give up. Tonight, we're going to take a quiet journey through the 10 most iconic Spider-Man suits ever created. We will explore where they came from, what they meant, and why, decades later, they still capture something true about what it means to be a hero. Settle in. Let your breathing slow. This is a story about a spider and the armor he built for his soul. Number 10. The Bombastic Bag-Man suit. We begin with a suit that was never supposed to be a suit at all. In 1984, writer Tom DeFalco and artist Ron Frenz found Peter Parker in an impossible situation. He had just returned from a strange alien world called the Battle World. He had brought back what he believed was a new costume, a sleek black symbiote that responded to his thoughts. But when Reed Richards of the Fantastic Four examined it, the truth was alarming. The suit was alive. It had to be removed. It had to be contained. And so Peter Parker stood in the Fantastic Four headquarters, wearing absolutely nothing. Johnny Storm, the Human Torch, handed him a spare Fantastic Four uniform and a paper bag to cover his unmasked face. And just like that, the Bombastic Bag-Man was born. There is something deeply lovable about this suit. It is undignified. It is ridiculous. It is exactly the kind of thing that could only happen to Peter Parker, a man for whom the universe has always had a very specific sense of humor. But it also marks one of the most pivotal moments in Spider-Man history, because that alien black suit, the one that had to be torn away, would go on to become Venom, one of the greatest villains Spider-Man would ever face. Sometimes the things we discard become the things that haunt us most. Number 9. The Spider-Man 2099 suit. In 1992, writer Peter David and artist Rick Lenardi asked a question that no one had thought to ask before. What does Spider-Man look like in the future? The answer was Miguel O'Hara, a geneticist living in Nueva York in the year 2099. Miguel was brilliant, reckless, and trapped in a corporate dystopia run by the mega-corporation Alchemax. When a genetic experiment rewrote his DNA with spider-like traits, he needed a disguise. He found one in a traditional Mexican Day of the Dead costume made of unstable molecule fabric, the only material his new talons could not shred. The suit itself is stunning. Deep blue and red, angular and predatory, with a spider symbol that looks less like a logo and more like a warning. Where Peter Parker's suit suggests a friendly neighborhood hero, Miguel O'Hara's suit suggests something ancient and dangerous lurking in the shadows of a neon-lit future. Miguel was not Peter Parker. He was angrier, more morally ambiguous, operating in a world where the systems of power were openly corrupt rather than quietly so. His suit reflected that difference. This was not a costume built to inspire children. It was built to survive. The 2099 suit endures because it proved that the Spider-Man legacy was larger than any single person, any single era, any single world. Number 8. The Superior Spider-Man Suit. In 2012, writer Dan Slott made one of the most controversial decisions in modern Marvel history. He killed Peter Parker, at least temporarily, and allowed the villain Dr. Otto Octavius, also known as Dr. Octopus, to take over Peter's body and his identity. What followed was a year-long experiment in asking what Spider-Man would look like if he were smarter, crueler, and utterly convinced of his own superiority. The Superior Spider-Man suit is a masterpiece of visual storytelling. It took the classic red and blue design and darkened it, adding black, adding clawed fingers, adding mechanical spider legs that extended from the back like weapons. It looked like Spider-Man viewed through a funhouse mirror, familiar enough to unsettle, different enough to threaten. Otto was, in many ways, a more effective Spider-Man than Peter had ever been. He defeated villains with brutal efficiency. He earned a PhD. He built systems Peter never had the patience to build. But he lacked the thing that made Spider-Man matter. The genuine love for people that drove Peter, even when it cost him everything. The superior suit endures as a reminder that competence without compassion is not heroism. It is just power. Number 7. The Miles Morales suit. In 2011, writer Brian Michael Bendis and artist Sarah Pichelli introduced the world to Miles Morales, a 13-year-old boy from Brooklyn who'd been bitten by a stolen Oscorp spider and had no idea what to do about it. Miles did not want to be Spider-Man. He watched Peter Parker die and felt the weight of that loss like everyone else did. It took courage. He was not sure he had to put on a costume at all. His original suit was literally a Halloween costume, a cheap off-the-shelf Spider-Man outfit that he wore the first time he stepped out into the night, unsure of everything, trying anyway. The suit that came later, designed by Sarah Pichelli with input from artist David Marquez, is a revelation. Black with red webbing, the inverse of everything that came before. It is bold without being loud. It is new without rejecting what came before. It is Miles, not Peter, and that matters enormously. The Miles Morales suit became a symbol for an entire generation of readers who had never seen themselves in a superhero before. It said, simply and powerfully, that anyone can wear the mask. Anyone can be Spider-Man. The only requirement is the willingness to try. Number 6. The Iron Spider suit. By 2006, Peter Parker had a new benefactor, one Tony Stark, the Iron Man. And Tony Stark, being Tony Stark, decided that what Spider-Man needed was an upgrade. The Iron Spider armor, introduced during the Civil War storyline, was a technological marvel. Gold and red, sleek and mechanized, with 3 Waldos, mechanical spider arms that extended from the back for combat and support. It had built-in communications, life support systems, and more processing power than anything Peter had ever worn before. Peter accepted the suit at a moment of enormous personal vulnerability. He had revealed his secret identity to the world at Tony's urging. He had trusted Tony's vision of a future where heroes registered with the government and operated under oversight. He had, for a brief window, believed that safety was possible. It was not. The Civil War tore the hero community apart. Peter defected from Tony's side. He gave the suit back. The Iron Spider is beautiful and melancholy in equal measure. It represents a version of Peter Parker's life that could have been, if the world had been kinder, if the choices had been easier. It is the suit he wore when he tried to believe that someone else's system could protect the people he loved. It could not. It never can. But it was lovely while it lasted. Number 5. The Stealth suit. Sometimes necessity is a particularly anxious mother of invention. In 2010, writer Dan Slott introduced a situation in which Spider-Man's spider sense was being used against him. The Hobgoblin had obtained a device that could broadcast on the same frequency as Peter's spider sense, turning his greatest defensive ability into a source of debilitating pain. Peter had 72 hours to solve the problem. What he built in that time was the Stealth suit, a costume capable of bending light around it, rendering the wearer nearly invisible, and more critically, blocking the frequency being used against him. The Stealth suit is not glamorous. It is blue-grey and functional, built for a specific problem rather than for aesthetics. But it represents something essential about Peter Parker. His mind is as much a superpower as his strength or his agility. When he cannot punch his way out of a situation, he engineers his way out. The Stealth suit did not last long in the comics, but it planted a seed in the imagination of every fan who had ever wondered what a smarter, more tactical Spider-Man might look like. The video game series that followed years later would harvest that seed magnificently. Number 4. The Symbiote suit. We return now to that alien fabric that started everything. The black suit. The symbiote. In 1984, the Secret Wars crossover event sent Marvel's greatest heroes to a world built by an all-powerful being called the Beyonder. Peter Parker's classic suit was destroyed in the fighting, and a machine on Battleworld provided him with a replacement. a living black costume that anticipated his every need, generated its own webbing, and felt like wearing a second skin. For months of publication time and much longer in the story, Peter wore the symbiote without understanding what it was. It made him stronger. It made him faster. It whispered to him in sleep, taking control of his body to swing through the city at night while he dreamed. When the truth was revealed, when the costume was exposed as a living organism trying to permanently bond with its host, Peter made a devastating choice. He rejected it. He used a sonic weapon to tear it free. He believed he was safe. The symbiote survived. It found Eddie Brock, a journalist who blamed Peter Parker for ruining his career. It merged with a man full of genuine hatred. And Venom was born. The black suit is one of the most consequential costumes in comic book history. Not because of what it was, but because of what it created when it was cast away. Number 3. The Spider-Man PS4 suit. In 2018, Insomniac Games released what many critics and fans consider the greatest Spider-Man video game ever made. And one of the first things players noticed was that the suit was different. Designer Jacinda Chu and the team at Insomniac created a Spider-Man suit that felt simultaneously classic and new. The webbing was raised and textured rather than flat. The eyes were large and expressive, capable of conveying emotion without a single visible facial feature. The red and blue were deeper, more saturated, more cinematic. But the design choice that made it iconic was the white spider symbol, enlarged and spreading across both the chest and the back, unlike any previous version of the suit. The PS4 suit understood something that not every Spider-Man adaptation remembers. Peter Parker is a person, not just a power set. The suit needed to feel lived in. It needed to feel like something a real person had constructed, worn, repaired, and worn again. It needed to feel like home. The game sold over 33 million copies. The suit has appeared in comics, merchandise, animated series, and in the hearts of an entire generation of players who spent hundreds of hours swinging through a version of New York City that felt, somehow, like it was real. Number 2. The Stark suit. The Homecoming suit. In 2016, a 15-year-old boy from Queens appeared in an airport battle that he had absolutely no business being in. He was wearing a homemade costume made from a onesie, ski goggles, and what appeared to be genuine hope. Tony Stark noticed. Tony Stark always noticed talent. The suit Tony built for Peter Parker, first glimpsed in Captain America, Civil War, and fully debuted in Spider-Man Homecoming in 2017, is the definitive cinematic Spider-Man costume. Red and blue, sleek but not cold, with large expressive white eyes controlled by internal mechanisms and a spider symbol on the chest and back. Tom Holland's Peter Parker was the youngest, most vulnerable version of the character the MCU had ever attempted. He was brilliant and eager and catastrophically bad at keeping his personal life separate from his superhero responsibilities. The suit Tony built for him carried all of that. It was too much suit for a kid who was still figuring out who he was. Peter eventually earned it. He eventually deserved it. And the moment in Infinity War when he put it on knowing what he was walking into, knowing he might not come back, the suit became something that no amount of Stark technology could have engineered. It became a symbol of sacrifice freely chosen. Number 1. The classic suit. There is nothing left to number 1 but the original. Steve Ditko drew it in 1962. Stan Lee wrote the character into existence in Amazing Fantasy number 15. The suit that appeared on those pages was unlike anything comics had produced before. Red and blue, divided by black webbing. A full face mask that hid every feature, every emotion, every hint of identity. Large white eyes that somehow conveyed everything. Fear, determination, wonder, grief. A spider on the chest, a spider on the back. Webs at the armpits for gliding. Simple lines, bold geometry, immediate recognition. It worked because Ditko understood that a superhero costume is a kind of architecture. It is built to carry meaning. The mask was essential because it meant that anyone could be underneath it. The colours were essential because they were bright without being cheerful, heroic without being solemn. The spider was essential because it was specific and strange, a symbol from the natural world that no one else had claimed. 62 years later, the classic suit remains the most recognized superhero costume in the world. It has been worn by Peter Parker and Miles Morales and Gwen Stacy, and half a dozen alternate universe variants. It has appeared on lunchboxes and in museums, and on the backs of children who cannot yet read but know, instinctively, that the spider means something good. The classic suit endures because the story it tells is simple and true. A person who was hurt by the world chose to protect it anyway. A person with great power chose to accept great responsibility. A person who was afraid showed up. That is the suit. That is the story. That is Spider-Man, 10 suits, 60 years. One idea that refuses to stop growing. Whatever Peter Parker wore, whatever version of himself he brought to the fight, the thing underneath the costume was always the same. A kid from Queens who learned the hardest lesson there is, that love means showing up even when it costs you everything. Let that sit with you as you drift towards sleep tonight. The image of a spider, small and patient, spinning something extraordinary from almost nothing at all. You can put down whatever you're carrying, rest now. The city is quiet, the webs are woven, everything is held. Good night.